Hi everyone, my name is McCorkle, and this is my final project for this summer's Arts and Civilization final project on the medieval bestiary. I chose dragons for my topic and came across a lot of exciting history regarding these mythological creatures that I look forward to sharing with you today. So first I wanted to explore the historical beginnings of dragon folklore. These supernatural beasts have taken many forms, but some of the earliest depictions date all the way back to ancient civilizations like Mesopotamia. Here is a relief of a Mushushu dragon that was made using bricks that were molded to create a three-dimensional effect and colored using a ceramic glaze over the brick for added detail. This piece was excavated from the Ishtar Gate in what used to be known as Babylon and is believed to have been created around 604 to 562 BC. Mushushu can be translated into furious snake, and as you can see in the image, the dragon appears to have scales along its body, with paw-like appendages and claw-like talons. The head of the beast is very snake-like in appearance, and its forward-facing gaze seems to depict a watchful eye over its surroundings. This piece, and many others like it, were found throughout this ancient civilization, as dragons were associated with Marduk, who is a Babylonian god. The dragon imagery was thought to be a form of protection over the city, as dragons were seen as a protector from evil forces. In ancient Chinese culture, dragons were seen as a symbol of strength, majesty, and discernment. They were commonly aligned with the power of the emperors. And here you can see a painted silk scroll of Emperor Taizong, who was the second emperor in the Tang dynasty line. His yellow robe, which was a color associated with royalty and wealth in China, is decorated with elaborate images of dragons flying through the sky. This piece dates all the way back to around 626 to 649 AD. Eventually, dragons appeared in European cultures as well, with some of the earliest imagery coming from the medieval bestiaries. Here you can see the dragon is shown with a long serpentine neck, feathered bird-like wings, and a forked tail. The dragon was commonly used in medieval lore to symbolize Satan and often depicted devilish qualities both in nature and in characteristics. Here, the forked tail demonstrates that, as well as the demon-like face with its tall, pointy ears and elongated snout. Here is another image from the medieval bestiaries. As you can see, the dragon is laying low as it creeps up the edge toward the elephant. Dragons were often depicted attacking elephants, which is meant to portray how the devil attacks people on their path, keeping them from eternal life in heaven. In this image, the dragon has a vicious, evil look as it lies waiting to kill the elephant, which seems to adequately align with a metaphorical devil lying in wait. The dragon's focus is on the elephant with its mouth agape ready to attack, while the elephant seems to be looking outward, seeking for something, which adds to the sense that danger is afoot. The elephant cannot see the dragon that is lying in wait, but the dragon's body language reminds me of a cat waiting to attack its prey. The wings of the dragon are flush against his torso, with its tail mostly straightened and low, as if trying to conceal itself until the perfect moment. The dragon of this tale clearly depicts vile forces at work to harm the innocent, and aligns with the Christian dogma of this time. Two mandrake plants are also pictured on the far corner, with the unsure elephant in between. The mandrake plant was said to be necessary for elephants to conceive, so it seems logical that the elephant would be standing near it, but looking concerned, perhaps sensing that there is danger nearby. This representation seems to imply that while it is important to focus on living a good life, danger lies around every corner, as is a popular Christian concept that the devil lies in wait for the chance to attack God's creatures, and it is important to stay vigilant because evil can show up anywhere. Here is another image from the Book of Beasts. You can see a panther, which was commonly used to depict Christ, standing tall and proud. Two dragons are seen below, much smaller in size, and one is looking around warily, with the other dragon actually hiding its head in a hole. The other animals look toward the panther with a sense of leadership and safety from the danger by following the panther, which illustrates the Christian concept of following Christ to be protected from evil. The devil, or dragons in this case, cower in the presence of Christ and run away from his holy power and might. The legend of dragons spread past the medieval bestiaries, though, as you can see here in this painting of St. George atop his white horse, which is front and center in the image, as he bravely raises his sword to fall upon the dragon. The story claims that St. George came upon a pagan village whose king was on the verge of sacrificing his daughter, the princess, to a dragon for the safety of those who inhabited the land. The dragon is arching back, having been pierced doubly through the mouth and throat, eyes closed, as if accepting defeat. The horse faces away, with terror in its eyes, while St. George looks down calmly upon the nearby threat, adorned in gold and armor, with nothing to fear. A woman prays on her knees in the background off in the distance, as if this is their last hope for survival, and is likely meant to depict the princess that was about to be sacrificed. The small size of the dragon compared to the horse and St. George gives a sense of confidence that evil will be defeated by good. The calm demeanor on St. George's face, surrounded by a golden halo, denotes a sense of godly protection and assuredness that he will prevail in his battle against the demon-like dragon. The horse even looks terrified, but seems to be overpowering the dragon by the force of his holy rider. The woman, or princess in the background, seems to portray the importance of turning to a higher power, or God in this case, to save oneself from the demise at the hands or claws of evil. Okay, on to some cultural comparisons. As the last few slides suggest, the medieval opinion on dragons was that they were evil, demonic, and usually were meant to depict the concept of Satan or the devil. But as I talked about earlier, in Mesopotamia, dragons were seen as protectors or guardians and aligned with gods of the time. Going back to ancient Chinese beliefs about dragons, they were sometimes referred to as the Zulong, or torch dragon in Chinese literature. The dragon was seen as a symbol of the shifting winds that occurred during season changes, or to represent the formation of night and day. Dragons were often chimerical throughout these different interpretations, having similarities with other creatures, such as serpent-like scales, as was common in the medieval bestiaries, or having bird-like wings, sometimes denoted by feathers. In Chinese mythology, dragons were seen more neutrally than in Christian European lore. Their control over weather conditions, such as rainfall, could imbue fruitfulness for the people's harvest or scarcity throughout drought and famine. In ancient Chinese culture, dragons denoted imperial majesty, wisdom, and strength, making them a popular symbol within the royal dynasty, as was seen in one of the earlier slides, adorning Emperor Taizong's ornate robe. Even to this day, dragon imagery is still integral to Chinese traditions, with artistic interpretations of dragons permeating celebrations like the Chinese New Year. I did want to touch on dragons in Celtic culture and Irish folklore as well, with many of the stories about dragons from this culture predating the medieval bestiaries. The deviation from demon to having deity-like powers in some of the stories is a welcome shift from the predictable narrative posed by the medieval bestiaries. The dragon is not always seen as symbolizing the devil or evil in some of these ancient accounts. The tale of Misgegra's brain being used to kill an enemy king is steeped in dragon mythos, but also shows them as protectors of other realms, and alludes to a larger dialogue around human conflict and the battles for power occurring during this time. I find it fascinating that stories of dragons across continents and time periods consistently demonstrate their formidable power from positive and negative perspectives. And lastly, for an interesting fact, while on the topic of Celtic mythology, the infamous St. Patrick was said to have driven the snakes out of Ireland. However, some tales deviate slightly in explaining that instead of snakes, he was actually battling two she-dragons called Caranorak and Cora, and while he may not have driven them out entirely, he did limit their reign to certain areas that would keep the people safe from their might or fury. Here we have an engraving with gold highlights on paper from the National Gallery of Ireland, and as you can tell from the title scenes from the Life of St. Patrick, it shows various aspects of his legendary exploits. In the middle image, you see St. Patrick in religious Catholic garb, with heavenly gold light emanating from him as he seems to lord over the demonic and menacing beasts at his feet, one of which is a small dragon that almost appears underfoot. This portrayal aligns with the typical Christian ideal that dragons are evil, but were no match for the godly protection offered to those that refuse to fall prey to its devilish intentions. Okay, that's it for this project on dragons in the medieval bestiaries, and I hope you enjoyed it. Thank you so much.